Welcome to Graphic Faith. This is Karen Morris. On first glance, trying to understand Christianity can seem really complicated. But there's a way of understanding Christian faith that clears away some of the complexity. Christianity can be understood on 3 levels. The first is that Jesus lived, died, and was resurrected. And that's an historical statement. You ask history-type questions. When did it happen? Where did it happen? Who were the witnesses? Who wrote it down? What was the geography like? Who was the governor at the time? Who else had power? They're all factual, historical questions. The second level is that Jesus lived, died, and was resurrected for sin. And that's a theological statement. The God meaning or the theological meaning of the life, death, and resurrection was in exchange for sin. The interesting thing is that most people's death doesn't mean anything. It's just a passing. But occasionally someone's death will mean something. Martin Luther King's death meant almost as much as his life. He was assassinated in 1968 and American history was changed. He died, and 40 years later, Barack Obama was voted in as President of the United States. And there's a direct line between those two events. Martin Luther King's death meant something. Well, Jesus' death means in exchange for sin. The theological meaning or purpose of Jesus' death from God's perspective is in exchange for sin. And so on this level, you ask theological questions. What does in exchange for sin mean? Why does it mean that? What are the implications? The third level is that Jesus lived, died, and was resurrected for my sin. And that's a salvation statement or a faith statement. That's when it becomes personal. Until it's personal, it's just a good idea. And there are billions of people around the world who believe in the history of Jesus. And of those, millions who believe in the theology of Jesus. But if they don't own it for themselves, then they're not Christian, and it's just a good idea. Let me give you a different example. I believe in the history of Hitler. I believe in the Third Reich, the Nazi Party, the death camps, and the rest. I even understand the ideology of the Third Reich, more or less. I understand the ideal of the Aryan race, the destruction of so-called inferior races, and the aim of a homogeneous German society. But I don't own it for myself. I'm not a Nazi. I don't believe, trust, and rely on the idea for myself. And it's like that with Christianity. You can believe in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. You can understand the theology of his life, death, and resurrection for sin. But until you believe and accept that his life, death, and resurrection was for your sin, then you're not a Christian, and it's just a good idea. You see, to be a Christian is always personal and never just a good idea. On this level, therefore, the questions you ask are, what difference does Jesus make to my life? Do I believe, trust, and act on this knowledge? And what's stopping me from becoming a Christian? So, the way to clear away the complexity is to figure out what level your questions are on. Are they historical questions? Are they theological questions? Or are they actually personal questions of faith? And once you've worked out which level you're functioning on, then you can move forward. So, you need to move forward by investigating Jesus, historically, theologically, and then personally. To find out more, check out the other videos on graphicfaith.org.au.